from here. Alison has really got us going on strategic planning because she's an old hand at it. And she's going to lead us through the next stages here. And even though it's board 5, non-board 4 now, we especially appreciate the ideas for non-board members.
Exactly. All right, thanks, Don. Can everybody hear me okay? Bob, can you hear? And Paula is recording this because we are going to put it up on the interweb. Is that better? So here we go. All of you were here for the first part, right? Nope, Suzanne, you weren't. We're going to just do a little bit of rehearsing to catch you up. But before we start, I would say sometimes you feel like, oh, we need more people, we need more people, we need more people to do things. The reality is that most of the great things in the world happen with small groups of people. And you probably are familiar with the name Margaret Mead. Before I knew who Margaret Mead was, when I was a freshman in college at UW-Madison, I was invited to a luncheon for, I don't know, specifically for young women at the UW, and who had done well the first semester. Anyway, I was invited to a luncheon with Margaret Mead. And I had no idea who she was. There was no internet. I had to go to the library to really look up who is this lady. And then, of course, you go to the Smithsonian, and there she is. But her famous quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And that's the same is true with small organizations. That it actually, at the end of the day, is a small group of people, and in choosing to see, rather than seeing the negative side of that, see the positive side of that. Having the ability, generally a smaller group of people can come to consensus more easily on things. And so here we are. We're a small group of people. I have complete faith that if we build it, they will come. And we've got a good start so far. And again, I would be remiss too if I didn't think Ann and Don Leak, because we probably wouldn't be here without you guys. My goodness sake. All right. So this is just to back up to go forward, just real quick. We're going to whistle through and then get to the specifics. So this is the kind of the process that we have approached strategic planning with. We are using, it's called the appreciative process. If you want more information on that, Kate, you're probably familiar with it because that's generally how we approach things at WWH, is that first let's start with a discovery at the top. Okay, so first you're going to take, what's the definition? The definition of the topic is the future of UUSRF, right? We're going to discover what's already working. What do we love about this place? And some of the questions we answered a couple weeks ago dealt with that question. What do we love about who we are and who we have been? What's the best of it that we would never want to let go of? And then we dream. We dream to say, if we were the best, if anything were possible, what would we be? What would we choose for our future if we were the best? I love the appreciative process because you can use it whether you're doing personal growth, strategic planning, what do I love about who and what I am, what do I wish I were, and how do I move forward? So then you envision it, you dream about it, we've kind of done that, we had that conversation 2 weeks ago. Then you come together and you design, okay, all right, what would it look like? What would it look like to be that? What do we choose to do? Sometimes you can't do everything you want, you know? I mean, in my perfect world, we would have built on a 10 classroom, space here for continuing education or student, youth education, and it would have been a Montessori school during the week, but we can't do that. Right now, we can't do that. But we can dream big. We can dream big and park those things in the back of our mind and go from there. So we dream big, and then we say, what can we do? What will we do? We're a small group of people. We have a finite amount of human energy that we can expend. What do we choose to expend it on this year? What do we say for the next few years we want to focus on? And what are our ultimate goals? Next slide, please, ma'am. So just to back up, our mission, as it has been, is to nurture our community, to help our children learn, to grow spiritually as we seek wisdom and justice. In our conversation 2 weeks ago, there wasn't any big desire to change that. We like our mission statement the way it is. Obviously, what I'm not going to go over is all the new stuff from UUA. That's a given. All right, vision statements, next. So your mission is, who are you? What are you here for? And your vision statement is, what are we gonna be? Where are we going? What's our dream? What do we want to be? The draft vision statement we have is a vibrant and inclusive spiritual and social organization that is a cornerstone of our communities. So I'm just gonna pause there. People like this. The board hasn't, ultimately the board will vote on this. But do people have thoughts on a vision statement? What do we want to be? If somebody said, what's our target? Our target is out there. So our mission statement is, why do we exist? Our vision statement is, what do we see? Congress will done.
Well, I am on board, so I have seen this before, and I've had a chance to think about it. And I think it's great. Some of the words really attract me. Vibrant, we need to be vibrant, and we need to be inclusive, of course. We are a faith organization. Sometimes maybe our name, society, gets in the way of that, but that was intentional. Well, we've lasted 35 years with that name, but we can think about changing it. But we need to be a social organization, and definitely we need to be a cornerstone. Now, cornerstone doesn't mean half the building, or even a wall. Just a small part that makes a big difference.
Yep.
And that's a great vision to have. Whether we can accomplish this is the big question.
Yeah, we need to be kind of a go-to organization. Other thoughts on the vision? What do we see ourselves as? See the future.
I like it.
You good?
Yeah.
We can also come back to it.
Yep.
We can also come back to it. Paul?
The other thing, Don talked about cornerstone in terms of being a small part, but I think of the cornerstone as being the support of the building. It's kind of what we're built on. And so if we can be part of what our communities are built on, I think that's great, because going forward, there needs to be a lot of change in our communities too.
Yeah. Okay, next slide, Anne. So then we talked about what would great look like. In a perfect world, in the future, what would it look like? And I just grouped it into these 3 Ps. We have a place. As it turned out, when we interviewed people and we heard what people said, a place is important. Remember we watched that video about the convention that Paula was a part of? And there was the one woman talking about a church without walls around the corner, talking to people, and we're doing that. Well, that's all great and fine, but what we heard from people was that place was somewhat important. A place, as one person I interviewed said, is, a place to have the important moments in your life. A new child is born, a wedding occurs, a big celebration, an anniversary, a funeral. We need a place for these life moments. A place to come to, the racetrack discussions, important life events. One person brought up a place to slow down and meditate. Where do I come to pause and bring peace, whether it's the garden or the interior? We talked about people having strong leadership in the organization, or being organized with clear direction. Membership, people in the seats, and also partnerships. So, having strong leadership, people in the seats, and then partnerships outside our organization as well. And programs, services with some structure but flexible to address issues of the day, education, especially for children, and it was brought up multiple times, the importance of music. And people love the musical element of services, but other things too, like holding concerts here. Next slide, Anne. So our goals, at the end of the day, fell into 4 buckets, and we're going to talk about each one of those buckets. And the point of today is to talk about specific things inside these buckets, and then the board will take this and we'll develop a work plan. Here's the things we're going to do this year, and then we'll try to recruit people to help with these different things this year, so we don't overwhelm ourselves. At the end of the day, everybody, all the work we're doing around here, people should feel like, I'll just make this up, I'm Ann Leek, I am working to make this, I'm working in the garden today because I am creating a beautiful, welcoming place for people to come to join us. And also I get personal joy out of it, right, Ann? Okay, space. People can turn, I know Suzanne, you can do it, I have a sister who can do it, turn anything into beauty, and that's fun. Okay, so our 4 areas are creating a welcoming, beautiful, functional environment. We got a good start on it. Creating a compelling program, getting to financial stability, and building community connections. So those would be our 4 areas of work. Next slide. When we talk about a beautiful, and that's where I want to just pause on each of these slides and say, what are your ideas? Are we capturing all the ideas that people want the board to consider when we start putting our specific work plan together? So the first one is this environment. Preparing the SC building for use during the day and youth education. Don and Ann have a very good start on that, but there's lots to do. Getting rid of unneeded items. Plan for cleaning and maintenance of the facility. The reality is here that a couple of our cornerstones have left us. And how are we going to fill this void and maintain this building and keep it clean and nice? What are we going to do there? We need a plan. And then continuing to freshen up the building and the grounds, painting, etc. Ann and I are kind of a self-appointed aesthetics committee. And so if you have ideas or would like to do things, we're going to be working on continuing to make this space beautiful. And then longer range, thinking about, and Don, I just threw these 2 in because I know they're on our longer range. That front door out there is going to need to be replaced. The windows, the whole entry is going to need to be replaced at some point. It's not good, right? Fair to say. And it would be a delight to have a kitchen that was more beautiful and more functional. Are there other, when you think about this, and think about creating a welcoming space, what kinds of things come to mind for you?
Making sure that everything we have here is accessible for everyone.
Okay.
And even though we are 1 floor, there are thresholds, there's parking lot issues for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think when I just think about the parking lot, I think people who don't know us don't know what to do when they come into our parking lot.
The parking lot.
I mean, as long as there are 10 cars there already, they can figure out a place to be, but, just, and I want to add, I studied the sign when I came in, and it said welcoming. And I have a feeling that we may need to do more about signage that says we are a place where we welcome everyone. And I'm not I think we just need to revisit the nice sign we have out there and make the world see us in a more prominent way.
You think we need to change the wording on the sign? Is there?
I think that's for a committee to decide.
Okay.
Another church that I used to go to was, they called it welcoming and affirming. And other churches do something with affirming. And we say all are welcome. Do we need to elaborate? I think these are just ideas to visit.
Yep. What does it say now? It says,
First word is
Unitarian
welcome.
Universalist Society of River Falls. I don't think it says of River Falls. And then it says a liberal.
Welcoming is the first word. Welcoming.
And I know liberals in there.
Yeah, liberals, community.
Community. Does it say community? Yeah.
okay.
Can't say too much because the sign's not that big,
Right.
but that's what it says. I will say, just a comment on the signage. The few people that came to the garage sale, you still have to explain what this place is.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we're not well known, and
Yeah.
our signage doesn't add to that too much. We used to hang a rainbow banner on the fence out there. little bit problematic because it got worn over time and faded. But we could think of that kind of rainbow welcoming to signify our inclusiveness.
And I think verbiage is important, obviously, but visibility and prominence out there. We know where to turn because I'm used to turning in that way.
Right.
But it's not real easy if you don't know where you're going,
No.
or from a different direction. And, so
Yeah,
that's
it's not.
just,
Things to think about. Mm-hmm.
Don, do you know what the wording on the sign Jay was working on is? Because there was a whole committee process in choosing wording then.
New sign.
Right, it's,
I think it just said Unitarian Universalist.
okay.
Yeah, didn't
Because
have
we-
anything below, which would also be okay.
Well, we were talking about maybe a sign that would change.
Yes.
Put more words and
Yeah,
we,
that's true.
oh, electronic.
Yes.
Electronic.
yeah.
We could have a quote thing and we could compete with St. Bridget.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That'd be kind of fun.
yeah.
I'm of two minds about the message boards. I like, I enjoy those sort of humorous quotes that
Mhm.
some churches put
Yeah,
there.
yeah, they're kind of fun. One's on the freeway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so verbiage and visibility and entrance, so the parking lot, accessibility, entrance, parking lot. I mean, fixing our parking lot, we're gonna be able to big bucks there. If you were to like blacktop that parking lot, maybe there's things we could do even with lovely road blockers to put down the middle to create.
Yeah.
You're talking about when you come in, I don't know if
Kind
you're
of
parking here or here,
Mhm.
right? I always just go for the rents.
Yeah. So simply, like what you said, between the two lights, if we
Right.
put a
A
barrier,
barrier.
some sort of barrier there, of course it, yeah, we could do that. That'd be
Yeah.
simple.
I don't mean to keep beating a drum on this. And it happened to me the first time this morning as I was coming in. I wanted to turn off the highway. There were a line of cars coming from the south, and I wanted to scoot in. Oh no, I can't, because there was an outcoming car. And the roadway is not really
It's not.
good for two lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fortunately, that person didn't pull way to the highway, or I would have been sidetracked. So,
Yeah, it's a dangerous intersection, or it's not an intersection, but the good news is Montessori is a safer place. We know to be very careful here, but it's not a safe entry. There's no go around lanes on either side, it's dangerous. So, all right, so signage, so we can put these things on a long term, making a welcoming and beautiful functional environment and messaging. Other things? Don, are there any other big things we talked about besides the front door? I mean, getting the siding done, getting the roof done is huge.
Oh, there's always little things that need to be done. And we've got a list. We've got to inspect the SE building roof, because we used the money, the insurance money that wasn't paid for that to help pay for the siding. And all the door closers are a mystery to me. That one there, and it's not installed correctly. The major unit should be on the door, the alarm should be up on top, but it hasn't broken, even with all the use of the Montessori school. But this one broke,
yeah.
as far as breaking, coming off the wall, and so it's mystifying to me. I spent a few hours trying to figure out how to remedy that situation. But there's all those little things, major projects, and the blacktopping of the parking lot. I'm of two minds because I don't think that's too environmentally appropriate. But we could look into dealing with that. As it is now, we have to refill potholes gouges in the driveway. So as you go out, if you could keep to the right a little bit, that would be helpful,
Yeah.
okay? Keep to the west.
Okay. All right.
The second furnace that we're gonna need to replace, if we
Right.
wanna go to, more efficient system, which we wanted to last time, but it was gonna take longer to get what we wanted than we had time to do it because it was out. We need to be proactive on the second
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
develop a little bit of a sinking fund that will
Yes.
save for these longer range things that we're gonna need to do. Yep, Tara.
Well, I still, I know back when we were talking about maybe painting in here. And that we would have a different color on the bottom and leave the rest white. And I still, yeah, I still like that idea and I don't know.
Okay.
But we were looking at paint,
Right. I think what we were talking about, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but following the wood division and
Yeah.
that front and the bottom part would be one color.
yeah,
And then the wrap around the back would be another color, and we had actually talked about specific colors.
yeah, we had. And I really, you know, I mean, I'd be fine with just even this being but because it feels, I mean, I'm not,
To warm it up. I mean,
Yeah.
Warm it up.
yeah, it
That's
feels,
certainly, I would register that with, Anne, the great grand poobah of design.
Yes.
And, yeah, we can certainly put that on the hit list of things with the kitchen.
yeah,
I think the next thing that Ann and I are gonna work on is finish up the nursery area. We did a lot of painting in there, but with the Montessori moving out, there's a little bit more that needs to be done, right, Ann? So we'll do that.
yeah,
And we'll have some projects for the winter that we can do, get things prepped, get the SC building prepped. And then when we work on a plan, which we're gonna talk about here, about getting education back up and running, and
Yeah.
inviting people in for
Yeah.
programs, and maybe next summer doing something, that
Right.
we've got the appropriate spaces
right,
cleaned up and ready to go.
yeah.
But yeah, we can add that to the list. Painting the sanctuary, is that what we call this, or the auditorium? Whatever we want.
I like the sanctuary, because the sanctuary is a place to
Yeah,
get away from
I think the
things.
sign says sanctuary.
It says auditorium.
Oh, it says
Yeah,
auditorium, okay.
It says
Take your pick. All right, next slide, Ann. All right, compelling programming. So what we've done so far, up at the top, we are using UUA themes, and we will be using Soul Matters materials, the ones we own. We're not necessarily right now committing to buy new ones, or are we buying new ones?
We haven't made that commitment
made
yet.
that.
We
Your
need
choice.
feedback from everyone. Of course, we can sort of design our own materials. We don't have to
You don't have to use
depend
that.
upon Soul Matters, which costs $4.50.
So we're gonna be using the monthly themes, which are new this year, obviously. You can read them there. Month 9, month 10, month 11, month 12 is presents. So we're going through there, and we are starting to develop new programming for each of those. And then we're gonna stick with the weekly themes generally. Of week 1 will be spiritual growth, week 2 environmentalism, week 3 social action, and week 4 social community, excuse me. And then components of the services being a theme, music, youth, food, you know, what are the elements of service? And Don went over kind of the agenda for every service, but then we want to have these elements as much as we possibly can to incorporate these things. Next, compelling programming was developing a plan for youth programming. How do we get our feet back in the water on youth programming? We've been away from it for a while. How do we get back in on that? And then bucket number 3 under this one was activities, restarting affinity groups, including, you know, the ones that are listed here, but maybe others. Let's make sure the poetry group is going, but what other groups do we want to have going and get those rolling? Someone has to own them, someone has to run them, and what do we want to do with the small numbers of people we have? So, yeah,
I wonder if there's any interest in a spiritual studies group,
might be.
on a seminar basis.
Yeah, and I think the groups, if we think about why the groups, so when the newsletter, we want to expand the number of people who get our newsletter. And every now and then, someone's gonna read it and they're gonna be, well, that piques my interest. I don't know if I wanna join that place, but I wanna go hear that. I wanna go just participate in that conversation. Look at the issue of the racetracks here. Not that we should, you know, that necessarily, but this room was filled.
Mhm.
And so what are the groups or the things that, people might wanna participate in?
Mhm.
Doesn't mean they have to be a member,
Mhm.
That's
and they
right.
might become a member.
Yeah,
So,
every
so
night is right.
groups, spiritual growth, so any other ideas?
I have one, and when I'm thinking about bringing children and families in here, when my children were young, they had recitals for piano, or
Absolutely.
violin, or whatever they were taking.
Yeah,
And it was always in the church that the instructor had.
Mhm.
And it wasn't a wide, if there was a wide base group, is there a group of music teachers in the community who might enjoy having the space, a calendar set up where they know they can come
Mhm.
with their families or more families, and it's just exposing them to our world, to include music in here, not for service, but anyone would be welcome.
Exactly. And so let's just play that one forward. So let's say that goes on to our strategic plan as an action item. We're gonna talk about connecting with groups. And then it would be, okay, what would be a good way to get that done? I wonder where we could get a list of all the music teachers in town. And then
Yeah.
contact them or send them a letter and say, hey, did you know our beautiful space is available? We'd be happy to invite you in.
yeah.
It's free, or here's a very low fee, whatever. And here's what we have to offer here. It's as easy as that. Really.
Yeah, the first thing that pops into mind is going to the music store downtown
Mhm.
Yeah.
and just asking them. And I've seen videos of their yearly recitals, and it looks like it's just sort of crammed into one room,
Right.
what I've seen,
Sure,
in the back of the store.
yeah,
And that's an easy thing to explore. We could, and
yeah,
undoubtedly they have a list of music, well, they have their own music instructors.
Right.
yeah,
And it's,
But they might enjoy, especially during COVID times, and West Nile and everything else now, a larger, excellent performance space. So
absolutely.
that's
Coming up here.
that's it. That'd be an easy one.
Mhm.
So programming, if we think about programming, I think, Kate, that we have some of that listed later. Under activities here, I was thinking, more internally, but also then we would open them up to external. But they would be kind of for our members, with our members, but open them up and invite others in. Whereas the recital comes into more like community partnerships of letting people in the community. So you can maybe flip ahead, Ann. Financial stability, we'll come back around to connections of community. So financial stability, we talked about increasing membership and participation. How do we bring in old members, bring them back? New members, bring them in? Who are the different categories of people that we would like to invite into this organization, and how do we reach them? How do we reach them and how do we invite them in? So think about that. That's going to be an ongoing, evolving thing, and it's not easy. And then stewardship. Don has some ideas about this. We're planning on sending out letters to members and friends, soliciting time, talent, and treasure for the first week of September. So the members and friends that we do have, we're going to make a move in September to reach out to all of them and say, here's all the different ways you can participate in this organization. What commitment do you make? It's a lot easier for us to plan if we know, that someone's willing and able to contribute X amount, and then we can build on that. But we know from our, from what people have said they will contribute, that we can count on that. And then what's the gap, or how much money do we need? It's not that much to run this place every year. Without a minister, we're looking at what, Don, 25,000, 30,000?
30,000. Our budget is 28,000 something. I've written a letter, the board's seen the letter for the 4 people that are on the board. But the tone of the letter, I could easily change. To me, this is sort of a make it or break it year. It's not that drastic. At the end of fiscal year, we have $30,000 in cash in the bank that we can latch on to. Right now, we have $30,000. So theoretically, we can cover our entire budget for the year. That makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But it, of course, it doesn't leave room for making improvements like the
Furnace.
front door and everything else.
Right.
We have upped our programming budget, which is, I think, a good thing that we need to do to enlarge our membership.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking about in that stewardship letter to change the tone a little bit, to sort of express a little bit of urgency in deciding what we're going to be and if people are going to have skin in the game, or whether they just want to be, if they just want to be passive members.
Mhm.
We can't afford to do that anymore. We saw with Jay's service, it's not just the people from Iowa that came up, his family. There were old UU people by the bushel loads that
Yeah.
appeared at that service.
Yeah,
And so it should be fairly low hanging fruit, but the problem is to get them excited about rolling up their sleeves and helping out.
right. And the appeal that we'll be making to many, I think, is not, hey, we need everybody to chip in so we can get by this year. The appeal is going to be that this organization is going from here to here. We have a vision to create, and here's our vision. And do you want to be a part of creating our community? We want to create this for our community. Do you want to contribute to making this happen? Can you donate time? Can you participate on this committee? If we give people a vision that they're inspired by, then they will contribute to it and want to make it happen. And that's where we'll get people to donate, not out of, God, I guess I have to give some money here. No, I want to invest in something that's going to be a cornerstone of our community, an organization that's going to make a difference for future generations. And that's how we'll get there. Having a year's cash on hand is a fabulous state of the world for a not-for-profit organization. Most not-for-profits would sit down and cry if they had a year's cash on hand. We could run this place for a year without getting a dime. That's fairly amazing. We couldn't fix anything. We can't do anything. So in a perfect world, we would have that year of reserve to just, cash. We would be paying for ourselves as we go, and we would create a reserve sinking fund to say, new furnace. Yep, we got that. Yeah, let's replace that kitchen, $25,000, whatever we think it's gonna cost. We could do that, and we could do one of those things every year. So every year we would be taking in enough money to keep us running. We'd have a little backup, just like you like to have at home if you can, and then have this sinking fund for capital improvements to the facility and the space and the grounds, like to fix the driveway. Maybe we lay that out, which one of those should go first. So there will be, we'll be working on stewardship as a board, so more to come on that. All right, next slide. So now building community connections, we have a couple slides on that. That's connecting with other local groups who share our values in their community work, including environmental and social justice, protection of democracy, etc. So these are other Wisconsin UUs, Restorative Justice, Kingdom of the Land Trust, GROW, Hope for Creation. There's no end to organizations that we might partner with, asking them to come in and do programming, build our relationship with them, right? Next slide. And then other community connections, that's where we talked about not necessarily so much mission aligned, but people who might enjoy using our space and getting to know us more, recitals, Toastmasters, community art space, the yoga and meditation people. I'm going to bet if we brought them in to see this space now, they'd be back in here very regularly, because this is a great space for a yoga retreat. And not that they weren't happy with their experience here before, they actually were very happy, went well. And then the River Falls Social Club, those are just some ideas. Okay.
And that last one, I think, is really key. That is a growing
Yes.
organization. I think they have over 500 people on their
Really?
Facebook. In the newsletter that goes out every month, and there are people that are stepping forward to do things. But one of the things that I have seen, because I get their newsletter, is a shifting of some activity which is a great marketing, as you know,
Yeah.
great marketing for that organization, but that just says they want spaces where
They're
they
looking
can
for
do
spaces, yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the library.
Right, yeah.
So Kate, is there any particular activity that you read on the Facebook page that would be appropriate for this space here?
I'll have to think about that. A lot of their social events are cards or games, and they're often held at bars.
Mhm.
Oh,
And see, now that would be a turnoff for me. I'm not like everyone else, but,
yeah,
Yeah.
so they're sometimes daytime, sometimes evening. But there are also, they have a monthly program of a speaker that comes in. But that there are just many
yeah.
things that are developing, because that organization is still in its developmental stage.
Yeah, and I mean, the things they do, like Kate said, they have speakers in, they do cards, a bonfire hangout, do this or that. There might be a lot of things, so it's just a matter of reaching out to these people.
So, could we have a cookout?
Yeah.
Could we host a cookout? Not necessarily us, but could we facilitate that for people to come? What we want is people to know about us.
Right,
And I suspect there are a lot of people in that social club that don't know about us.
right, who don't know us, and then we have to be pretty crisp and clear about who is us, what do we mean when we say us, what is you? And it's really, really helpful if you can say, here's what we are now, here's what we're gonna be. Here's what, just like when I took my mom to the Sycamore, when it was just, like a shelled space, and I went and met with the person and said, this is what it's gonna look like, maybe this would be nice. Maybe this would be something you would love
So
to.
what?
Sorry, I'm selling the desk. You're selling the desk.
Selling the desk, selling Brad's desk.
Yeah.
Tell them $10,000. So, in being able to project that future. Yep, we're a small group now. You watch what we're gonna be, and maybe you'd like to be a part of that. And here we go. So these are the kinds of things we're talking about. It's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. We've got a small group of people. We just have to keep going along here and move these things forward. So today's conversation is really about, do you like this? Does it feel right? Does it feel doable? And are there other things? We heard some things we'll add in here.
Oh, go ahead, Tara.
I was thinking too that, though our, maybe our parking lot isn't defined as well as it could be, but the fact that we have a parking lot
Yes.
that is immense, because when I think of other churches, often they just have street parking, they don't have a lot of area. I mean, St. Bridget's has more of a parking lot for sure, but, and then the fact that this auditorium or sanctuary, whatever you want to talk about it, however you describe it, it does have good acoustics.
Yeah.
So I just think that reach out is huge, and if we had music here often, we would get a reputation of, yes, that's a really nice place to go and small concerts are so
Absolutely.
wonderful.
I mean, I
So
think if we
wonderful.
spiff up that playroom, spiff up this kitchen, honest to God, I think we could IKEA-ize it for about $25,000 with new appliances. And spiff that up and have that be very functional, and get that front door fixed and have that be lovely. This place is not bad at all. It's
No.
great. I mean,
Yeah.
people want to use
And
it.
then to actually have a nice outside area too,
Yeah,
where you're done with the concert and you want to chat with somebody over
Yeah.
here, over there. I mean, it really is because the thing is then we could, with a base of support like that, something going on like that,
yeah, it's pretty darn nice.
then we could put money into the programming and foster
Yeah,
more UU things, so it could be a collaboration.
yeah,
And because one of the things I look at with this place is I think it's super important that we share this building. This is an amazing building, and to only have something happening a couple times a week and then Sunday,
Yep.
does a disservice to what we have, this
Yeah.
gift that we have.
Yep, and it's something called, have you ever heard of the concept of the flywheel? The flywheel concept is in a book by Jim Collins. But anyway, you get things going, I'm gonna go there, and you get things going, and at first the wheel doesn't want to turn, it's kind of a grind,
Yeah.
and then you get it going,
You get the
and then it goes and
momentum.
goes and goes.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about the importance of continuity. So if we want to develop a reputation or a knowledge in the community, we don't just have one recital a quarter. We do it every month. And people come to, just like they do down in the summer at the Veterans Park.
Oh,
They have a
Right.
schedule of things they're gonna do. If we had something
Right,
musical that was going to happen every month and people
Right.
knew it could happen.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact that we have a college here that may have something similar. And Bob's idea of having a group of spiritual growth and discussion.
Yeah.
What if we did that once a month?
Right.
Once a week.
Well, whatever, we can argue about that.
we like
But
that.
if we get known
Right,
Uh-huh.
that people
right,
can count on this
Yeah.
being a place that offers X, Y, Z.
yeah,
Like at UW Oak Falls, my mom was at the Sycamore, and they take the little bus over to UW, quite regularly, and they have coffee and concert on a Thursday afternoon.
Right.
And I'm sure it's probably students performing,
right,
and these old people just love it. So
Yeah.
you could have coffee and concert, or a monthly musical,
yeah,
And
something like that.
music in the park in the summer is done by cab, right?
I think so. Yeah.
What about music at UUSRF in the winter, so it can be a year-round
It would
program?
be a cab thing.
Right,
You could talk to Shirley Holbrook and.
yeah, that's what I was thinking, because
Yeah.
there's so much free music in the summer, so really in the, when the climate isn't as favorable to be outside, or what if we're a backup, if it is pouring
Yeah.
downtown, because
Yeah.
usually they just
Move it here.
shut it down, they could post it, we're at UU, and have it here,
Back up for rain.
yeah, backup for
Okay.
rain.
Me too.
Because they moved it to a bar one time, well,
I think they like that. I think Chamber of Commerce likes that.
Bar.
Yeah.
It's
So
not good, yeah.
I like the idea, but it might be, we might be competing with downtown merchants that like that venue where it is. And
but it doesn't rain out that often,
Could be true.
you
All
know,
right. It's
most of
worth-
the time.
It's worth
it
letting
is.
people know
Usually
that
good.
space is available for emergency backup
Yeah,
or stuff.
yeah.
Okay, well, we're overtime right now.
oh,
Well,
yeah,
Did
yeah,
you
we
hear-
always get started later too.
Yeah.
I want to mention one more thing.
Yeah.
And that is, our location here is in River Falls Township. We know that this meeting space was used a couple of years ago, and the township people came in. I was reading in paper this morning about the struggles that rural Minnesotans have, primarily with getting workers that are qualified and living there. But it occurred to me, and in talking to Lynn also, that the township might appreciate a more, let's say, cultural space to have some meetings rather than the town hall.
And they're anticipating a larger group.
Yes, so
Yeah, for Falls
Yeah.
I think maybe
mhm,
an action to sort of get this going
Sure.
is to have someone attend the town hall meetings.
I was just there last week.
Yeah, good, and we need a regular, speaking of continuity, we need a regular attendance there. And after we listen, and get to know some of the board members a little bit better, offer this space for some larger event that
Mhm.
they would like the
mhm,
whole township, to be
That's a
a
great.
part of.
mhm.
Okay.
And-
Okay. Wow.
Well, I was just gonna comment a little more about a spiritual studies group.
Yep.
Most churches have some kind of spiritual studies group based on the current Bible study group.
Mhm.
Our study group, we're not really restricted to the King James Version of the Bible. We'd be a little more open-ended to that.
World religions.
Well,
Some.
other religions, other comments, or non-religious information. There's a whole world of
Yes, along with the programming, the third Sunday is social action, and I don't know if the board heard me when I volunteered to coordinate that third Sunday, but the idea is to invite a different social action group every month. Talk about continuity. Here, we have the ability, what is it, $200? Is that what we decided that we would donate to the cause?
I think that's it.
Whatever group comes in, it's, they'd be happy to do it, and then we would make a $200 donation to the group.
Which that would expand as well, that's a little bit different than spiritual exploration, right?
This is just,
Right.
this is social action.
That's social action.
And so the first Sunday is Ann's gonna talk about this, UU organization in the state of Wisconsin.
Right. But you know, Bob, what you're talking about with spiritual exploration, let's say we had a group that did that. I would think there might be a lot of young people, even college students, who would be interested in, oh, I go to a spiritual exploration group. I'm not sure what religion I am or want to be, but I'm interested in learning that. I mean, I was in forced spiritual exploration at Marquette University, but a lot of college students don't get that in their education, and maybe that would be something to start, even focusing on younger people, or older people, or both.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Are you talking about some non-traditional
Yeah.
ways
Oh, yeah.
of thinking?
Like many different ways of thinking. I mean, there's the religions of the world that you mentioned, Kate. There's I'll call them foundational religions of the world, but then there's more the, more the things that are less common, spiritual thinking. Okay. All right. Did you hear anything today that you hated? That you're like, no way, that's the wrong direction. Hated that. It's like, that's the wrong direction, we can't do that. Anything? Go
I
ahead.
didn't hate it, but I'm concerned that because we have some resources, but limited prospects
Right.
of resources, that we concentrate on the things that have to be done
Yep.
before we start projects that
Yep.
we can live with for a while.
Oh, yeah. But the have to do's and the nice to do's. And the things that we can do now that are really cheap. Not that paint is cheap, it's not. But freshening, revitalizing, and then what are the things we'd like to do that are out here? I don't believe in doing anything until you know how you're gonna pay for it. And that's feasible. Feasible to pay for it, and it's feasible and that people want to do it.
It's good to know what everybody likes and what would make
Right.
it a better place for everyone too.
Yes, yeah.
So the last D in this whole appreciative inquiry process is delivery.
Yep.
And to me, what's essential for delivery is having someone make the commitment, take on the responsibility for doing these design elements. If you don't have someone dedicated to that, it's not gonna work. So I like this whole process, but the last D is the thing, the toughest thing in my mind.
Right.
The last D, delivery. Can you deliver those things? And I 100% about agreement with Allison. If you can't pay for it, you can't do it. But if we don't have someone, for example, who wants to take charge of a spiritual studies group, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work.
And sometimes, you start something and you are the only one that's there for a while, but it just grows. It's like build the baseball field and, field of
Yeah.
dreams, and it will come,
Yep.
and that's,
It's also projecting into the community what and who you are, and Kate might relate to this a bit too. In a previous life, I used to help people who had experienced an infant loss. I had a personal situation with loss, and I developed the perinatal and infant loss program at the hospital here, and helped people with kind of working through that. And it was interesting to me, because I did some research on it, and it came to It helps people, even if they don't attend, it helps people to know it's there for them if they need it. Even though I'm not here every Sunday, it brings me comfort in my life to know that this organization is here for me when I need to interface with it, when I don't. I appreciate that. And there was this one woman who I crossed paths with 18 years after the fact, who had never, the doctors in town used to just give my name and number to people who were experiencing loss, and call this lady if you feel like you can't make it through the day, call this lady, she'll come and talk with you. And I have no credentials, except for life experience. And anyway, you know, I mean, I didn't get very many calls. I met with a few people over the course of time and hopefully help them and whatever. And so then, 18 years later, I'm at a parade and I happen to run into this person, and somebody's talking to somebody. Actually, it was Patrice White was talking to somebody else, and she says, "I'm here with Alison Page. We're in the parade up here." And this woman said, "You're here with Alison Page? Where is she? You know, can I meet her?" And anyway, this lady comes down and then she wants me to meet her daughter, who she had named Alison Page.
Oh my God.
And the last name. And I was like, okay. And she said, "Well, I never, ever, ever called you, but your name was on my refrigerator for 3 years, and I always knew you were there." And so it helped me. I mean, I think it can help us to understand the power that we have as an organization, the influence we have as an organization, even though this room isn't full every Sunday.
Yeah.
And creating these groups, and it might be few people who come, but it's there, and then it builds. And then as we get started here,